went this route about 20 years ago. It's even more polished now than it was then. Fantastic though, well protected. Just got to get underneath that roof and out over there somewhere after a nice rest. Is one of my favourite things. I know it's just a thing, so if I ever lost it I could just build another one and the software's all backed up, but still it's one of my favourite things. When I was in school I remember I had whatever, I can't even remember what PC it was, but I was typing up essays and that sort of thing and printing them out and handing them in, and then I bought a 286, a second hand one which was rubbish, sent it back, and then at university I bought a 386. The 386 was pretty good, but after that I think with the 486 onwards I built my own PCs, because that's what you did and that's what you do. PCs are great, you can just pick your parts, put your parts together. You do need a bit of understanding, but you can build whatever you want to build, and I've always created builds which would give me the most bang for my buck, because I've never had much money. So I've always squeezed as much performance out of my CPUs and graphics cards as I can, which usually meant overclocking and all sorts. This PC, well, I say this PC really is a continuation of all those other PCs, because you upgrade bits, you change bits, you tweak bits, and other bits remain and so on. This isn't the same PC that I first built 25 years ago, but it certainly is its spiritual successor. It's like Trigger's broom, there's nothing left of the original, but it's not that I've bought all the components and built a brand new PC. This PC has been built from the previous PC that was built from the previous PC that was built from the previous PC, and so on. This I started to build in June 2017, so it's 4 years old. It's got a Ryzen 5 1600X CPU. This was the thing we were waiting for, were the new CPUs that were worth upgrading to. And it's great. It's great for editing 1080p video, but 4K is a bit of a pig. You have to be a little bit patient. You can see what it's like scrubbing there. Oh, I even lose control of my mouse. And if we have a look at the CPU, we can see, look, it's the CPU that's having to do all the work. It's probably due an upgrade. I've bought a new Ryzen 9 5900X CPU, which is a bit exciting because, as I said, I've always tried to get as much bang for my buck. I've always bought stuff that's cheap and overclocked it, and the 5900X is, you know, it's almost top of the range. Very unusual for me, but it's going to make my 4K video editing better. But it's a Zen 3, so it's the latest generation of Ryzen's, which means this motherboard won't support the CPU, so we've got to take the motherboard out, which means we've got to take everything out and put a new motherboard in, new CPU. You can see it's water cooled, so we've got to move this all across. I'm also finding that, right, my radiator's in there, so it pulls air through the radiator to cool the CPU. And when I'm rendering 4K videos, the CPU is throttling because it gets too hot. So I want to move the radiator inside the case, move the fans on the other side, and see if that helps. So that means we've got to bleed the whole water cooling system. Take the fans off, give them a clean. I've got some 140mm fans to go on the top. Take it all out, clean it, put it all back together again. Usual, you know, rigmarole. Look at this, cleaning the fans off, old fan. You can never get to these, you can never clean them unless you take them out, give them a nice damp wipe. Oh, lovely. charging mounts have got to be unbolted and transferred across as well. Bump, 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 bump. Do you want to open the 9? Does it need a knife? Or should we just
it would probably be a good idea to use it.
Rip it out the side of the packaging there?
Let's see what we got.
It's stupid packaging, isn't it? It's all... I know. It's just a big box. That literally was the CPU sticking out the side of the box.
This is the product.
Okay, the water loop's back together, so now the fun bit is try and fill it with water and see what happens. Is that it?
Yeah.
So we'll plug it in.
Plug it in.
What do you think?
See if it boots, then
It's gonna-
see if it runs Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's going to boot. I reckon it's going to boot first time. What do you think?
Oh, it always does. Hopefully it's going to boot.
Hey!
Oh, look at that. You got a new BIOS thing. Oh, cool.
Jack thinks a good first test is to see if Cyberpunk runs.
We've got to find out.
Cyberpunk ain't going to run.
We need to know if the issue that you had was with the motherboard or what.
It's Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it runs fine for a lot of people.
Yeah, like half of people it runs fine, half of people it doesn't run.
We need to see if your specific crash issues reoccur.
Yeah, but it's
crashed. Yeah.
running. I say running, start it up. Borderlands is fine.
Ooh, it looks fine.
Yeah, editing this week's video, which is in 4K, the anatomy video that is, this is a complete game changer. I spent ages trying to decide how much do I want to spend, how far do I want to go, but I think that was the right decision because it keeps up with me now. It's like editing 1080p video, it's so much faster, and saving time is quite important for me because I do a lot. And if this CPU is going to be in here for 4 years, you know, that's pretty good value. But the speed difference is absolutely, it's night and day. Night and day. Quite a big job. It's always kind of, it's fun building PCs, and it has got easier over the years because you learn the pitfalls and the foibles. You just better understand what you're doing. It was really good fun doing it with Jack. Jack's really interested in this sort of thing. He says he still doesn't feel confident enough to build his own yet. Yeah, good. Job done. Right, sorry, back to this.